Good afternoon, and welcome to the April 18th edition of Success by Association Live. This issue is sponsored by Wilmington and Beaches Convention and Visitors Bureau. We thank them for being valued ANC members and for their steadfast support. Today's article was written by Lisa Ward, Associate Executive Director of the North Carolina Dental Society, and is reprinted with permission. The article is titled, Succession Planning Equals Planning for Success. For many organizations, succession planning is right up there with crisis communication planning. You know it's important, but it's a little daunting and so easy to put off. You're not alone. According to Leading with Intent 2015, only 34% of boards have a written CEO succession plan. But think of the benefits if you have a robust succession plan in place. You'll have the strong leadership you need to increase your organization's service capacity, program effectiveness, and long-term sustainability. You'll have a solid plan for leadership development within your existing team. You'll have clear goals for how the new position will help advance your organization and meet your members' needs. Finally, think of the peace of mind your board leadership will have if you, as the chief executive, retire or one of your key staff leaves the organization. With a strong succession plan in place, leadership continuity will be ensured and transitions and leadership handoffs can be handled with minimal stress or disruption. Now that you're convinced succession planning pays in spades, let's take a look at the three main types of succession plans. Emergency unplanned CEO departure, the more typical defined CEO departure, and leader development planning. Ideally, you should have plans in place for all three scenarios. Scenario 1, emergency unplanned CEO departure. As the term implies, this is the process in place in the event the chief executive suddenly departs, either permanently or for an extended period of time, longer than 3 months. An unplanned departure can cause considerable stress to both your board and your staff. So it makes good sense to have a plan to help mitigate the panic. Ideally, the board and executive will have developed and approved this plan before an unplanned departure occurs. Because while developing the plan on the fly can be done, it's a bit like flying an airplane as it's being built. Here are the key things your board should consider when putting a plan in place for an unexpected departure. Number 1, if the chief executive leaves tomorrow, have you identified a candidate for an interim replacement? If the answer is yes, is that individual prepared with the necessary knowledge and experience to lead the staff and provide members uninterrupted services? Make sure the interim leader knows the key functions expected of him/her by the board. Number 2, does everyone within the organization, board and staff, know who will be acting executive until the board can appoint someone officially? Number 3, is there a process in place for board oversight and support of the interim executive? Number 4, do you have a communication plan in place for notifying internal and external stakeholders about the chief executive's departure and the transition plan? Keep in mind that your key stakeholders may not be pleased to hear about an executive's departure secondhand, or even worse, in the newspaper. Number 5, matching your organization's current future needs with leadership competencies is one of the most important parts of the executive search. So make sure the chief executive's job description is updated and relevant. Number 6, besides keeping the buses running on time, what are the top 3 to 5 initiatives or challenges that fall under the chief executive's responsibilities? Does the job description encompass these areas of skill? Number 7, name an executive search task force responsible for identifying and recommending candidates for approval by the board. Determine if the interim chief executive is qualified to be considered as a permanent replacement, and schedule task force board interviews. If there will be an external search, determine the timeline for hiring a permanent executive. And lastly, plan how the board will assimilate the new executive, including the development of a 90-day plan complete with milestones. Now, scenario 2, a defined CEO departure. In this scenario, the chief executive and board initiate the process for a planned retirement or departure. Admittedly, this planning can be done under a more relaxed timeline and gives both the board and the executive time to think strategically about the needs of the organization and the qualities desired in the next chief executive. But don't be so relaxed that you put off the process indefinitely. The first priority is to develop a solid understanding of the most significant challenges your organization and industry are likely to face over the next 4 to 6 years, and the skills and experiences the chief executive will need to lead the organization past those hurdles. Your board must fight the tendency to think the answer is to find a younger version of the incumbent CEO. Only in the rarest cases will future challenges require the same skills that worked in the past. So help them look through the windshield rather than the rearview mirror when talking about the leadership skills that will be needed. The steps for a smooth, defined chief executive transition are similar to those for an unplanned departure in terms of identifying whether there is an internal candidate who can ascend to the position, assembling an executive search team if needed, ensuring an up-to-date and relative job description, communicating with internal and external stakeholders during the transition, and working with the incoming executive on a 90-day plan. There are also a few notable differences. Because of a defined departure offers the luxury of time, take advantage of the opportunity to thoroughly define the type of leader who will best suit the organization. First, what are the top 3 to 5 objectives or challenges that will fall under the executive's core responsibilities? Based on those objectives, is there an impact on the executive's job description? What kind of experience and expertise are required? Does the organization's strategy require a certain type of leadership style or set of leadership traits? Matching organizational needs with leadership competencies is one of the most important steps in the executive search, and it's best to work out the must-haves before the interviews begin. Finally, have a plan for the departing executive to detail the critical knowledge areas, which should include, at a minimum, access to off-site or password-protected information accessible only to the chief executive, documentation about the location and status of legal documents, contracts, stakeholder agreements, insurance policies, employee records, and business and financial plans, and access to organizational event chronology and timing, as well as time-critical actions required by the new executive. Scenario 3, leadership development. This is the process for ongoing leadership development within the organization. Developing a talent pool with the capacity to develop effective leaders in any number of key positions is arguably your highest priority. After all, a leader, no matter how strong he or she is only one person. An effective, highly functioning organization needs a team that can meet and increase your organization's service capacity, run effective programs, and provide long-term stability and sustainability. Developing internal talent helps ensure continuous execution of operational, programmatic, and administrative responsibilities. But it also creates a culture of development that will help you attract and retain talent. As you're looking to build your organization for the future, ask yourself these questions. Do the skills exist in the organization now? Where are the gaps? And to fill the gaps, are there opportunities to cross-train either within departments or between individual team members? Or do you need to look outside the organization? As you look at senior level staff, will executive coaching be beneficial in getting your future leaders ready for the next step? What kind of professional development resources exist in your area? The resource may well be Association Executives of North Carolina, ANC. But don't overlook local college courses or even 1 or 2 day workshops. CAI also is a good resource for staff development. Most important, hire your team members with a future career path in mind. Using your strategic plan and those 3 to 5 critical objectives as your guide, decide the talent you need to have in place 3 or 4 years down the road, and hire the individuals who demonstrate the adaptability and willingness to grow within and beyond their current roles. It's time to commit yourself and your organization to succession planning, including leadership development. It will reassure board members, staff, and key stakeholders that business continuity will be maintained and the organization's mission will not be at risk. You'll have better alignment between the organization's strategic objectives and the future leadership requirements to fulfill those objectives over time. You'll build a robust talent pool of qualified successors within the organization. The benefits are well worth the effort. This concludes our article. Thank you. We hope you have a great day.